The King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Broadcasters Podcast, where we dive deep into the media industry headlines and dissect the digital disruption that diverges the masses into the new media counterculture and away from the media establishment. Here is the King of Podcasts.
Thanks for listening to another Broadcasters Podcast, episode 252. Thanks for subscribing wherever you find the show. If you watch it over at broadcasterspodcast.com or on YouTube at youtube.com/King of Podcasts, you can find it all there. We're going to go into social media because right now the legacy social media is starting to take a big hit. Whether it's financially or whether it's content-wise, a lot of things that are going on now that social media has been around for 15 years, at least for my own respect, but I know that Twitter and Facebook have been around a little bit longer than that. What is it, 2004 for Facebook and 2005 or no, it was 06, I think, for Twitter. And you know what happens is with everything that goes with technology, sometimes there are just certain platforms that just don't stay around for long. MySpace was around for a while. GeoCities was around for a while. And Dig and, things like that. It was just, there were things that were out there that Foursquare, remember that? Like there's some that are still out there, but like with social media, there's certain things that come around and then they just kind of go by the wayside, slow down. That's what it is. And so what happened now is we have some number of issues where we know there's the attack on Elon Musk and his purchase of Twitter and what changes he's made so far in terms of layoffs, but also in the same respect, Mark Zuckerberg has also done his own level of layoffs, but 11,000 workers. And he had to go up there and actually say something to these people about what he's done. The same guy that the movie The Social Network, one of the great movies of this millennium, depicted Mark Zuckerberg. And now this might be it. We might be documenting the downfall of Facebook, but because of a number of things they decided to do with the money they had, but this is part of it, okay? When you have companies that just become too big and too powerful and they get corrupt. Now, I don't know what's going on before Elon Musk came in, but like I said, what he came into is struggling. And because of things that are going on with him, Tesla stock has started to take a hit. There's a lot of things where he's been losing money. But the man that has the most money in the world, he can take some of that. With Mark Zuckerberg, I don't know how much he's getting much of a hit off of this, but it's not doing good. So there's a number of stories that have depicted this week. I want to go through a couple of them. First of all, we're going to take for the New Statesman, the decline of the text-based social media. This is really what it is. Social media is not dying. See, there's a story about the age of social media ending from The Atlantic, but I'm not going to take that story yet because that's not the best way to put it. What the New Statesman says is it's text-based. Because anything that we're going on where we're just using words and there are visuals into it where, after the fact, pictures, videos, things like that. There was some of this that was going on that Twitter and Facebook had to go and adapt afterwards, but they were text-based from the beginning. So now we're seeing that Twitter and Facebook, the video platforms such as TikTok, changing the face of the internet. And Sarah Manavis writes about this, and she says now, social media was originally built from blocks of text. You only need to look back at films, music videos, or computer guides to see how social media was once perceived. And you had MySpace, then Facebook, then Twitter in 2006 as a micro-blogging site. And the natural progression of the text-based internet, and though it never quite reached the peaks of the predecessors, suggests that many people wanted social media to be a space to share thoughts, to tell jokes, and to argue, mostly to talk. A public square. Well, now it's fitting that TikTok has risen much, and I'll tell you, I will go on to TikTok more than anything else. And Twitter, according to this story, is truly finished because of the new owner, Elon Musk. He's admitted there has been a massive drop in revenue since his takeover. The company's losing $4 million a day because advertisers are now fleeing the site, and reports are showing that his first few days, the owner of the platform lost more than 1 million users. Right. Because there's a purge. It's not self-imposed, but something's happening where, it's a political purge of certain people that are going to just go ahead and get off of there because they don't like the guy. And they're worried about who is going to be allowed back on because they're going to open up access to certain people to be on the platform. So 1 million people fleeing is not a big jump. That's not a big deal. It really isn't. And what's going on as well. The other thing too is also Twitter had competition. There's a bunch of conservative ones that are out there. Truth Social, that's Trump's social media. There's Getter, there's Gab, there's what was the other one? Well, another one I had before, and I don't remember what it was. But it wasn't anything special. They're all the same sites that just kind of were just beneath everyone else. And maybe if I remember it, I'll tell you what it is. But either which way. But then Twitter's not the only one with its own collapse, because the real collapse this week is Meta, Facebook's parent company. This is what we got. They're going to lay off thousands of workers. 11,000 I read. First time in company's history. The company lost $80 billion. $80 billion of its marketing value following its quarterly report last month. One division of the company reported a $3.7 billion loss in just 3 months. And the reports are claiming that this is due to Mark Zuckerberg's obsession with expanding the metaverse. And he has all but forgotten Meta's other platforms, especially Facebook. And the thing is, he has Instagram and WhatsApp that he bought alongside to integrate among. And Zuckerberg said in a statement that the metaverse, his focus will be building the artificial intelligence that powers recommendations for Instagram Reels, the app's video content. So there's a growing pile of evidence suggesting that platforms we once saw as the archetypal social media sites are becoming obsolete, because they do become obsolete. We know what's going to happen. There are just some sites that are not going to be necessary anymore. And, Twitter and Facebook only had so much to evolve, but TikTok continues to evolve constantly. User generated, very easy to go ahead and take in 30, 60, 1 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute, 10 minute videos. It really is. Because it's just like watching television. It's like, you don't have to scroll through a lot to get to what you want. TikTok does the best thing where their algorithm always feeds you what you want. And for you to just have to switch to the next content, it's a flip. Just like you're on Tinder. Swipe up. That's it. And you keep going and going and going, and you'll find it. And if you keep swiping up like that, you're going to get to the content you want. It takes really little time for the algorithm to go and actually find out what you want. They'll find out what it is. So there's a growing pile of evidence, like we said. Instead of chat rooms and text posts, we now have front-facing cameras, visual content above all else, an online world of images, short clips, live streaming, and an obsession with a personal brand, replacing the internet that prioritized communication, ease of access to messages. And that's where we're at. That's what they say. And the change is larger in part to how social media asks users to present themselves online. From the noughties into the 2010s, social media platforms didn't necessarily emphasize the personal brand, but communities. While the personal profile wasn't always a part of the social media experience, you can see this difference in language used online. Right? Because Facebook and MySpace, they didn't have followers, they had friends. And the way these sites were catered to building groups and creating events relied on text-based interactions. So now you have video that's encompassing everything right now for any content we have out there. There's still room for some text, but really, TikTok is YouTube and Instagram, but accelerated by TikTok. Mainstream social media is now unconcerned with building relationships between people. It's focused on building what are fandoms. People on these platforms are increasingly not as described as users, but they're now creators. And now you have a common industry term, professional influencers, which we talked about many times here on the program. And users are encouraged to take their content creation seriously, to view themselves through their individualist lens. And that's the best part of all this. When you see this content creation, that is just of the individuality of the person or the group that's doing this. And a lot of what is out there is not corporately created. There are some plants out there that you can see what they're doing, and they're sponsored, and you can see that they're getting themselves out there and being pushed. But some things, you see certain people that are getting very popular. They don't mention what their sponsors are or who they are. Because some content creators are good to try to keep themselves organic, keep themselves grassroots looking. But then we already should know that certain people just get bigger. You see their production get better. The cameras get better. The graphics get better. Their production gets better. And then they kind of lose their own. But what happens is with TikTok and other places, things just change. You get some people that are going to be at the top, and then others are going to just go away. But then also, the best part about TikTok is the amount of clips that you see out there of different content from different, like for me, podcasts. I see so many different shows where they're like, okay, here's the microphone, here's the set, here's a Joe Rogan looking set, here's a, Merv Griffin looking set, here's a Firing Line type of set, here's a Howard Stern type of set, here's a Breakfast Club type of set. You see everybody doing this, and like there's a lot of content out there if you want to go look. That's there for the picking. But it's a lot. And it's nice to see that because it's like, I'm not going to go out looking for certain things. Sometimes if it just pops up in my feed. Here's one thing I like to do. With TikTok, I'll follow somebody for a while. And when I get a little bit fed up with their content and I'm getting too much of it, unfollow. Their content's going to still continue because the algorithm is going to follow what my lead is. It's going to still be smart enough to say, maybe this person still wants to see certain things from this creator. And I'll do that. And you know what happens? It works all the time. There'll be certain creators that I watch. They'll come back. And I'll notice sometimes that the creators that come out there, it's like, I don't want to always have the same following in my FYP because I want things that are going to be very popular. They're going to be very interesting. Plus, I might see something that will be, I'm not normally seeing. Which I've noticed with TikTok is very good. Like you get a certain number of people that are on there. You do your own content. But I know for me, besides the people that are about me in my context, besides the people that I follow, there's something about the content you get that is coming into you. And you're just seeing all this all on the play. Now, with YouTube, it's different because you have these channels and subscriptions. And they might have their own suggested curated content for you on your homepage. But when I go to subscriptions, I get the easy look at, oh, here's what the new thing on this channel is. I'm going to go look at this. And it's nice to have that because I think everybody likes to go and go back to something and they'll see their feed of things they want to watch. You go into it, subscribe, and you're off and running. And I like it like that. It actually works really well for me. So this linguistic difference is evidence of a much greater change in how we understand social media. So text is now secondary to the image. It's a caption. When that happens to those of us who still want a text-based social media experience, creating a video on TikTok or Instagram is a much more time-consuming task than firing off a text post in a matter of seconds. But remember, if you want to watch text, a lot of these videos have closed captioning, or they have captioning in it, subtitles. There's still some mainstream platforms that will be still text-based and will still flourish. You got Reddit, you got Tumblr. The death knell of the text post hasn't quite sounded yet, but I think what's going to happen is Twitter is going to adjust itself and it's going to find its way back. Plus, if Elon Musk looks at bringing back Vine, I think we're going to be interested in that. But I think Facebook is the one that's taking the biggest hit. Facebook is a much older platform. It's for older demographics. It's kind of a family album, if you want. And for me, I really don't get much out of Facebook in terms of I go there and I go to Instagram to post, to get some of my content out there to be noticed. But it doesn't get that random views like TikTok does. It doesn't get that thing where, YouTube might recommend something and you just might find something out of nowhere that might just pop up and catch your attention. But Facebook and Instagram, you absolutely have to be following or related to following somebody to get them to watch your content. It's a different story. But I think what the new statesman says is it's not that social media is dying, it's a shakeup. So when they say decline of social media, that's the difference. And I think this New Statesman article told it best. Now, the story from The Atlantic is much more dire, but I don't think the way they're saying it is actually true either. So they go in and say now we've washed up on this unexpected shore. We can look back on the shipwreck that left us here with fresh eyes. Perhaps we can find some relief. Social media was never a natural way to work, play, and socialize, though it became second nature. The practice involved a weird mutation, one so subtle that it was different to spot happening at the moment. But I'll tell you what, and I forget it was one of the books I read now that talked about that social media, it can still be used for something important. Like Twitter still is a place to go for news. there's a lot of comments, a lot of clips that pop up immediately on Twitter if you're following the right people. It's not so much with Facebook. And with TikTok, it's different. Instagram, takes a little bit. But I'm telling you, TikTok has something about where you're seeing something where you need the visuals live. For instance, today, when I want to watch the coverage of the Hurricane Nicole, that actually almost passed through where I live here in Palm Beach, but it went north. It actually touched down more into Daytona Beach and Volusia County. And what has been deemed the world's most famous beach, Daytona Beach, took a major hit of beach erosion. And now the beach that people would used to go and drive on the sand, it's washed out. It's done. Major beach erosion, that happened. And so social media has created a number of things. There have been some young children that have gone there at 13 years old and up that get on there and they get really destroyed by fear of missing out, by putting anything up that they put up, whatever opinion, things they might say, and cyberbullying is still very much a thing. And there are people out there that don't know who you are, but they're upset and they continue to go along. And I said, I don't know. But you see all of that, and it's not a good thing. It's that people do get corrupted on there because then people are seeing other things that people are doing that it's like, oh, that's cool. But remember, when we used to not have all this 15 years ago, we just met people like we did. It's like online dating. I'll talk about that on my other show, Depraved and Debaucherous, where social media and dating apps, you now have this thing where you can see all these new beautiful people that you want to meet. And then these new, interesting, fascinating people you want to meet that are in other parts of the world, and you can watch them in real life. It's like they're right there with you. You can connect with them. It becomes something where, well, then whatever's going on in your backyard isn't as important as what the rest of the world is doing. And now your expectations of what you want to be, who you are, where you want to go, they've gone now to a ridiculous level. To where you have a standard now that people feel like they need to go and be when they're on social media. And it's not healthy. We know that. And so they go on to say here in the Atlantic article that a global broadcast network where anyone can say anything to anyone else as often as possible, and where such people have come to think they deserve such capacity, even without withholding, it amounts to censorship or suppression. It's just a terrible idea from the outset. And that now perhaps it can also end. So they're trying to say that in this article, it's politically charged. I know. They want to make the point that if there's a certain political slant that is considered, because look, we know that one side will probably say, oh, well, everybody should have a voice. And the other side says, no, there's certain people that should not have a voice. We know there's two sides to these stories, and it's political. And that's what's going on here. And that's what we're trying to say here. That the opportunity now is to not to shift to some equivalent platform, but how to embrace the ruination. Something previously unthinkable. So they go along and they go into the history of social media, the terminology, how it came together. And then we move along. And I'm just going through all this history they have here. I don't want to go through the whole thing, but we'll move forward. It's a long story. So here's what we have now. On social media, everyone believes that anyone to whom they have access owes them an audience. A writer who posted a take, a celebrity who announced a project, a pretty girl just trying to live her life, that anon who said something afflictive. When network connections become activated for any reason or no reason, then every connection seems to be worthy of traversing. This was a terrible idea. Now, they say that people, in this article, just aren't meant to talk to one another this much. No, we were never meant to go and have this kind of access to the whole world at our fingertips. We're not even trying to go and travel anymore. In some cases, we can just watch it on TV. We can just watch somebody living it out for us, unless they are encouraged to go themselves. They shouldn't expect to receive such an audience for that expression. They shouldn't suppose a right to comment or rejoinder for every thought or notion either. From being asked to review every product you buy to believing that every tweet or Instagram image warrants likes or comments or follows, social media produced a positively unhinged sociopathic rendition of human sociality. That's no surprise that the model that was forged in the fires of big tech companies like Facebook, where sociopathy is a design philosophy. Look, because they're trying to build it so they could do ads. They're ad platforms. And so they're going to manipulate. They're going to try to find some way to program something so they can keep you watching ads. TikTok is the same thing too. They all do. You got to make your money. It's free content. It's never going back. Let's put it like that. We're not going to have that part. But what I think in the story they don't get is the fact that we do need an evolution of social media. Because if Twitter and Facebook want to continue to compete with the likes of Facebook, if Instagram wants to compete, they better make changes. Now, TikTok has already gotten YouTube and Instagram to start changing ways with reels and shorts. And it's going somewhere. YouTube is putting a lot of money behind trying to get creators to do shorts exclusively for them. That's Google. Google's going to continue to do things where they're going to continue to evolve. And they also branch themselves. They, look at themselves in the phones. They got products. They're doing a lot of things. Google will continue to keep thriving, the alphabet. And that's another thing that's going on over here. And then the next part is about what Facebook and Twitter's layoffs may say about the future tech. This is from SBS in Australia. And like I said, Meta, the Facebook and Instagram parent company, 13% of their staff is going to be laid out in November, right before Christmas. Wow. Sacking more than 11,000 employees. He says, quote, "I want to take accountability, Mark Zuckerberg, for these decisions and how we got here." He said in a company-wide message. I got this wrong, and I take responsibility for that. Now, once the layoffs happened, Meta stock actually climbed 5.2% on Wednesday, closing at $101.47. Now, with Elon Musk and Twitter, his plan right now is to take down what he claims is the hierarchical nature of Twitter and provide power to the people. Some critics say he's making things worse. The current lords and peasants system, he wrote, for who has and who doesn't have a blue checkmark is bullshit. Power to the people, blue for $8 a month. And he said in reference to his plan to make people pay $8 a month to be verified. But see, the verification, to me, it's always been, for me, I don't care about the distinction. I guess when you're verified, you get more people to follow you. But, for me, I don't really care. I always felt like I never really cared to strive for that. It didn't make much difference to me at all. I just want some place where my content might be seen. I don't care if it's that big. Because what happens is when you become verified, when you become that big of an audience, you have to be extra careful what you say. It would be nice to have a bigger audience out there. It would. But I get to say what I want on this show. It's my show. And there's things I want to go ahead and say on here that are not going to be worried about anything else. But it's like, I want to have the chance to go ahead and talk and not worry about what's being said. And I can say things and I'm not going to get some extra flack for it because some people just decide they're going to have a problem. It's been nice to be under the radar. I can do this show. I can make my comments. I can talk about it. I don't have anybody else to talk about. I'm sitting here in my bedroom just talking away on my microphone. So I can talk about all these different things that are going on with social media. We'll talk about the Billboard Hot 100 and the whole mess with that coming up in a second. But like for me, the appreciation of having this, I don't need a verified blue check mark. I wouldn't pay for it. But even if I got even one that earned, it wouldn't make a difference to me anyway. Like I've been on Twitter since 2007. And I forget how many tweets I've already put out there in my career on that site. I've done a lot. But to me, it's like, okay, I'm still the same amount of followers I've been in forever. 2,500 followers. I've been like that for years. Literally years. And if I look at the amount of tweets I've done in my career, same. It's nothing special. Like I do an average of what? 60 some odd, 60 to 70 tweets a month. That's my normal deal. And when I go through it, I'm like saying to myself, okay, well, nothing overly special. But when I do what I'm doing here, I want to make sure that my content when I'm doing the type of stuff I'm doing to do, right? Where it might be a little bit opinionated, but it's also something that I want to talk about. I know that I'm not always for a mass media audience. Even like on YouTube, I got a small audience on there, but you know what I do? I put it 18 plus. 18 and up that are going to watch my content. I don't make it for everybody because there's just a certain audience I think that will watch what I'm doing here and comment and do what they want to do with it, which is nice. And that's where I've been for a long time with this. Like, I'm going to be completing, year 4 of this show coming up at the end of the year. I'll be starting year 5 in January. In a couple of weeks, I'll be in my 10th year doing the Wrestling Observer podcast. And the Depraved, the Debaucherous just started happening this year, but that was because I replaced the name of another show that I've been doing since, 2019? 2019. So there's all of that. And so for me, I'm working on all my stuff that I have here, and I'm enjoying it. And social media is always been something where I know it's a public platform. Yeah, you're getting a chance to be noticed in public. But you also have to be careful what you're saying out there in public. And what people will come back and say to you, because first of all, you need a thick skin if you're going to be out there being noticed. And people will be able to go ahead and go out there and provoke and argue and complain and bitch and moan and criticize and cajole you for any comments that you say. It happens all the time. You just got to be careful what you're going to say out there. Know what you're going to say and expect the consequences of what you say. I've always been with that. So that's the other part we have to. So when I look at social media and I look at what's going on here, it's a necessary change. Like, we need to have a little bit of shake of what's going on here. Like, I'm not worried so much like I was about, free speech and how I would hope that people would have a place to be speaking. I think that's what Elon Musk is going to try to do. But we'll see who comes on the platform, because I'll tell you what, I don't think it was anything wrong years ago when we had just about anybody that was up there on the Twitter feed. Just give us some proper terms and conditions and people will know, and then we just stop. Like, you'll know which people can be on there and which ones cannot. It'll be much easier that way. We can see if people are going to figure that out at some point. Oh, well. Okay, let's get into a story now that really got my interest, because tale of 2 chart toppers on the Billboard Hot 100. Now, one of them is currently, as of last week, occupied the top 10 songs of the Billboard Hot 100. That was Taylor Swift. Incredible. Well, there's some things that had come up that now have come across. We'll get into the Taylor Swift history in a sec. Well, I'll make this one point just to point this out, because it happened, and we should go and talk about this. She's the first artist with the entire top 10 on the Billboard Hot 100, led by Antahira at number 1. And she surpassed Drake, logging 9 of the Hot 100's top 10 for a week in September 2021. And the songs were from her new LP Midnights, released on October 21st. And then also Taylor Swift's record also surged past Drake as the Beatles for the most titles from the top of the Hot 100 in a single week, and her monopoly of the top 10 bests those acts. And as she adds 10 new top 10s, she can boast the most in among women in the chart's history, with 40 surpassing Madonna at 38. And among all acts, she chose only Drake, who has 59 songs in the top 10. And as we know, the Hot 100 blends all genre, U.S. streaming, official audio and video, airplay, and sales data. And that's what they do. Now, for the most part, the Billboard Hot 100 has still been, even with sales, even with anything else, it's still been a very credible chart to me. It still does depict what's going on. As I talked about last week with crossover culture, and talking about when things go into the crossover, we have metrics. We have ways of finding out when something crosses over, becomes popular, and then that something becomes mainstream, but doesn't have to be mainstream for long. So it's nice to see things that are not mainstream all the time. That's the case with 2 major artists like Taylor Swift and Drake. If Drake comes on, he's not necessarily a pop star, he's a rap star. And then you'll see certain songs that'll come up. And there's something to be said about with Billboard, when Certified Lover Boy came out, like I said, 9 of the 10 songs became his and reached up there. And the same thing happened with Scorpion. We had a lot of songs up there going back to 2018. And Drake talked about that Billboard, he said, quote unquote, fixed the charts. And it came up after his 2018 album, Scorpion, to give artists a chance. Well, there's a bit of a difference when you see where we are now and where things have been before. So he spoke with DJ Academics. And he says that the move was done in an effort to boost other artists. Quote, I mean, at the end of the day, ever since we were gunning off the charts from Scorpion, they fixed the charts anyway. So it is what it is. You know, they had to give other people a fair shot, he said. And then he spoke about the projections about his new effort with 21 Savage, Her Loss, the new LP with them. He says, quote, we'll do what we do. It's more about the feeling, the momentum. It's not about how long it stays. He didn't go to specifics, but he likes to refers to a change in the way Billboard counts streams and album sales. Now, this is something we already know that is true. The radio airplay has become more important. I don't know where that all came from, but we saw a shift in the charts this year. Pretty much. They made changes, and I'm not necessarily happy about them. Because the radio songs now stay up at the chart at the top, and then that top 10 has become very stagnant. Unless you have something that's so outstandingly popular that certain songs will not make it to number 1, let alone the top 10. And that's something I see right now that's, you have to have such a level of radio airplay. Sales are considerable, but radio airplay has more emphasis when it shouldn't. Because radio airplay is controlled by the people that are all these big corporate outlets that are playing what songs they're playing. And that's the part I don't like. I don't like the fact that media base is out there, which is the representation of the market. And by the way, when you look at the fact that Taylor Swift has all those songs up on the chart, for radio airplay, they're only playing one song, one single, Anti-Hero. And even that song is not even that high. It's now top 10 this week. But for a song like that, you would think it would go. But they want to have this thing where, oh, no, we can't do that. We're just going to have it slowly make up the charts. Listen, Taylor Swift's album is out. It's now. Why are you not? Radio doesn't do anything where they go ahead and try to work with the record labels. We'll work with Republic. Promote it. Get her out there in interviews. Do something with her. Have her perform. Something. But radio can't do anything. Can't give her the money they want. And they can't do anything where, you know, they don't. The value of advertising for music labels or for record companies to do anything at all is not valuable to them anymore. Because I know the audience, sure, there's an audience for Taylor Swift, whether it's country or for pop audience, but that's it. She can do what she's going to do. She'll get her sales, she gets her streaming, and people will buy the album, which is what helps for her. But radio does nothing for her. When I look at the top 10 right now, in media base. Okay. The Weeknd's Die For You. I don't even know what song that is, but it's on at number 9. Nicki Yours Sunroof is number 8. David Guetta, BB Rexa, I'm Blue is 7. Super Freaky Girl, Nicki Minaj is 6. Harry Styles, As It Was, 5. Post Malone, I Like You featured Doja Cat, 4. Sam Smith, Kim Petras, Unholy, 3. Okay, that's credible. But it's still growing, which is the other part. And when you look at what they have in terms of what's going to move forward and going to accelerate up the charts, no, we don't have anything about that. Nothing. I don't know. That's what they got. And then Doja Cat Vegas is number 2. Steve Lacy, Bad Habits, number 1. Steve Lacy and Bad Habit, which is a top 10 song, only because of radio. Like if I look at Twitter right now and I look at the charts, and I try to see what is going on there where I get an idea of what is on the charts that is making something right now. And I guarantee if I go looking, I'm not going to find anything extra special. Okay, for instance, the predictions for the Hot 100 for November 12th from last week. If I look at what they have here, they'll show me like the certain list is on here so I can find out if there's anything of it. Oh, it doesn't go that way if I want to zoom out. So here's what I got. With Antihero, if I can look at this list right here, the scoring system gives it the most points and it's based on streaming. 35 million streams, 34 million radio. But the highest radio is almost 60. Well, actually, 66 million streams or million plays by radio for Bad Habit. The song is the number 4 as of this week. And then you look and I'm like, okay, and Lift Me Up goes up there and radio just pushed it up to the top. 47 million spins, 25 million of the streams. And that goes up there to number 2, automatic. Okay. But I still feel like something there is just not right. And even when somebody actually on Twitter, when I look at this one story, they always talk about, okay, radio numbers and therefore predictions as a whole have a much larger margin of error due to the midweek transition from BDS to media base. And it's all these things that are going on that I just don't like, where the setup of all this. Even somebody in this Twitter feed that I'm looking at the predictions for the chart, one person says, this prediction is super wrong. There's a thought where the old Billboard formula would have Rihanna go up to number 1, but it's not. Instead, Taylor Swift is number 1. And Rihanna's song doesn't go number 1? Well, something will be said about the fact that it only got up the streams at 25 million? That's it. It's one of the top streaming songs. But Unholy has more streams. It has almost as many streams as Antihero. But the song's number 3. And it's got radio. But for whatever reason, radio pushed Rihanna over with a lesser audience. And they just have this way where they score radio a certain way and I don't care for. It's not right. Just saying. Now, Drake didn't go into specifics, but he's referring to a change that the way that Billboard counts streams and album sales. Part of this is what we talked about a few years back about BTS, when their songs came up to the top of the charts based on sales. So Billboard counted 1,500 streams equal to a single album sale. And then next week, they implemented 2 different ratios to determine the value of a stream. There was a disparity in the value between a song streamed by a paying subscriber to a platform like Apple and Spotify versus that of a free user. Scorpion still hit number 1 in the Billboard 200, and numerous singles landed in the top 20 of the Billboard Hot 100. Singles like God's Plan, Nice for What, I'm Upset, Don't Matter to Me, In My Feelings, Nonstop, and Mob Ties. Her loss will expected to move 400,000 album units in the first week. And there you go. It's like people are talking about it. And I'm not sure what they're going to think about all this and where things are with the charts and the fact that they've been rigged for a little bit. And it's not the same as it was. There's something where certain artists are not getting up to that top of that chart. Nothing of novelty. Nothing that is necessarily overly viral. If you notice right now, there's not any viral videos that are up or any viral music that's really made their way up. Like there's some songs will make it into the chart, but as I've always said before, there's something about the fact that the chart's not doing as much as it did. But if I go to other markets, like I always go to the official chart over in the UK, they always have something where they always have their setup. And their chart always has like a certain amount of songs that go up there, and they do follow when it comes to, they actually follow what's going on in their market, and they actually have a better sense of what's going on. Therefore, Billboard Hot 100, Anti-Hero's number 1, and as we already talked about the other songs that are up here, for the fact that Taylor Swift still controls all this chart. And I'm looking at songs. If you look at the chart now, I mean, SZA's Shirt is a new song at number 11, right at the beginning of debut. But when you see other songs, besides Taylor Swift, so many songs on this chart, just in the top 40, that are so old. Like all the songs that are on here, that are top 20 are more than 20 weeks old, 4 or 5 months. And the other songs that are not are Taylor Swift. Literally, except for Unholy, which has been on there for 6 weeks. But that's what they're doing. It's like, okay, if I keep going, Under the Influence, Chris Brown, that is viral. It's been on 8 weeks, and it's now at 21. And other songs we look at, okay, what else is Jimmy Cooks? That's made a rise back up. A Thriller, that became and re-entered because of the fact that Halloween and, a lot of streaming came out for that. What else do we have? There's a lot of songs on here that are just, they've been around for a long time. Look, Wait for You, Something in the Orange, Titi Me Pregunto, Cuff It. You're talking about, Cuff It was 12 weeks ago, but then all the other ones, 25 to 30. 29 weeks for Lizzo, and About Damn Time, Harry Styles, 24 weeks. Tomorrow 2. I mean, it's based on another couple of things, but like I said, you look at this chart, and it's like, it's old. Like, there used to be the Billboard Hot 100. When a song hit, it would just go spike right up. But look at the official singles chart. It's a different story. Different chart altogether. The top 10 of their chart, literally, you have songs that have been on there on the top 10 that are less than 10 weeks old, except for Cuff It. Right? Antihero is number 1. Unholy in the official chart, 2. And then Lift Me Up is 3. Forgive Me, Louis Capaldi has an 8-week run, and they're number 4. Miss You, Oliver Tree, Robert Schultz, which is a viral song right now on TikTok, 5. And it's rising. Then Lavender Haze for Taylor Swift. Hide and Seek, Stormzy, which is a very popular song now over in the UK. Snow on the Beach, Cuff It, and Psycho, Anne-Marie and H, is 10. 7 weeks on the chart. And the other songs they have are just like, wow, it's just such a switch of a mix. And then the radio there, they will play songs that have not been sitting on the chart for a long time. Remember, if you're listening to the radio now, you're saying to yourself, okay, I want to listen to Steve Lacy, Bad Habit, which has been a song that's been out there for weeks. Okay. How many weeks have it been now? I have to do this sometimes. 18 weeks for Bad Habit. 18 weeks. And then I look, okay, next. Made You Look, Meghan Trainor. That jumped in the chart. I know it's down there somewhere in the Billboard chart, but like, that song has been being used for viral. It's not gone up there that much. Steve Lacy, Bad Habit is on the chart, an official chart at 15. And there's other songs that have been around for a little bit longer, but like, seriously, it's kind of hard to see what songs are on here because I'm looking at the top 40 going across. I keep going down. There's not that many songs that are around for 20 weeks. It doesn't do that. In other markets, they don't have songs just linger on the charts for so long. And they don't take so long for those songs to make it the radio. But radio here, it's a different story. It's stupid. They've just changed things up, and it's bad. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they figured out, but it's not good at all. These are things that concern me because there is a rigging on the chart, and I don't like it. I wish we'd have some changes here, but they haven't done anything with it at all. Now, there's a few more stories I want to jump into before I wrap things up. These are some stories that I held on to for a couple of weeks, and I did not get to in my stack here. We'll get those real quick. Just jump into them. We'll just jump right off. TikTok going after podcasting. It's all YouTube's fault. Stories from Insider Intelligence. And TikTok has over 1 billion monthly users, 138 million monthly active users. Like 1 in 3 people in the U.S. have TikTok. So TikTok might go in directions to develop a super app. TikTok has propelled numerous unknown acts to prominent spots like the Billboard 100 and the Spotify Viral 50, but does podcasting make as much sense for music as TikTok? YouTube is still the number 1 podcasting platform among U.S. adults who listen 5 hours or more to these shows a week. And Google sees an opportunity with podcasts, going as far as adding a dedicated page for discovery to its video platform. Facebook shut down the podcast service because they want to do metaverse. So by next year, they say that podcasting will have accounted for more than half of all digital radio listening. And even if TikTok never becomes a major player in podcasting, snagging even a small piece of the pie can impact players like Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, while simultaneously allowing the leading short form app to keep users in app rather than sending them elsewhere to consume spoken word content. I'll tell you, I see clips of podcasts all the time. And sometimes I don't have to go catch the full show to find out what I want to see or watch. Pretty common like that. A story that came from Conal Byrne, who works with iHeartRadio's podcast service. Podcast subscriptions are harder to sell than ever. I'm not going to worry about that. I talked about YouTubers are paying big payouts from shorts, and other industry leaders warn that they should cool their expectations. And like Google's trying to pay YouTube creators to crash TikTok's party. We talked about all this. If you want to look at the stories, you can find it for yourself. One story that also came up here that I thought was interesting was how much money influencers charge on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube for sponsored content. We don't hear much about that, but it is an interesting thing to find out what these influencers are getting for what they're getting out of this and getting a chance to be a part of. So the story's from Insider, and they talk and say that influencers make money for brand deals on social media platforms, vary by influencer and which platform they are posting to. And it was a new survey that was asking 552 influencers about their rates across 7 different platforms. So influencer marketing company Maverick surveyed the influencers in April to better understand the phenomenon. Respondents ranged in following size. 80% had fewer than 100,000 followers. Only 1% had more than 1 million followers on social media. And the majority reported they were part-time creators. So they asked about the average rates for sponsored content across several platforms: Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. YouTube and blogs are the most common rate, 22.7% and 24.6%, between $500 to $1,000 per collaboration. Instagram, the most common rate for influencers, $250 and $500 per collaboration, and for TikTok, $100 to $250 per collaboration. And in the story, they say that brands also need to recognize that influencers are always talking, discussing rates, and comparing offers. Brands should be conscious that when influencers recognize a lack of inequality, they see it as unfair treatment. So this is what we have right now. And they also have a look at the percentage of influencers and how much they're charging. And Pinterest and Facebook are also included, so is Twitch, so is blogging. All that's there for you if you want to check it out for yourself. And that's how it works. And that's the show for tonight. We're going to keep it short. And that's going to be it for tonight. Thanks for listening in, as you always do. Hope you enjoyed what we talked about tonight. And we'll come back again next week with another episode. And until then, remember that content is king, and the control of your content is in your hands.
Thank you for listening to the Broadcasters Podcast. Find all the links to subscribe to the show by going to broadcasterspodcast.com. And don't forget to check out the King of Podcasts wrestling program, the Wrestling is Real podcast, exclusively at wrestlingisreal.com.